So tonight, what I want to talk about is something called, I'm sure you've heard it, it's been branded around for quite some time now, but this FOMO, so fear of missing out. And then there's this new one that's called JOMO, and it's the joy of missing out. And sort of what are the differences and how can we get from one to the other? And is it good to have JOMO? Is that a good thing? So I mean, they didn't label it, excuse me, as FOMO when I was younger, but I remember really experiencing this when I was a young child. And the first time that I remember experiencing it was when I wasn't invited to a party when I was about 9 years old at school. And what felt to me was like everybody else in the class had been invited to this party and I hadn't. And they were all talking about it, get ready, what they were going to wear, and and I just remember thinking, what's wrong with me? There's something wrong. Why are they not inviting me? Why am I not being included? There must be something wrong with me. I need to change. I need to become different, because the way that I am, obviously, is not good enough, or it's not acceptable. And this the definition of FOMO is, it says anxiety that an exciting or interesting event may currently be happening elsewhere. So it doesn't even necessarily have to be that we're actively not invited to something. It can be just a perception, and often is a perception, that other people are having a better time than ours, that they are enjoying more things than we are, and that our life's boring and that other people's is more exciting. And unfortunately, it can really often, particularly when you're younger, lead to feelings of insecurity, of less than, and being unlovable. I also remember at school, excuse me, I was, when they put you in a line and they get people to pick you for, they'd have two captains. Anybody get this? Just feedback to me if you get this. But they'd have two teams and you'd choose somebody in turn. Excuse me. And I was nearly always the last. Nearly always. And I hated that. Excuse me, that terrible cough. It's a tickle. I hated that. I absolutely hated that. Thing of people choosing who they wanted as their team. And people wouldn't necessarily choose them for their ability. It'd be because they were more popular, or they were in with the in crowd, but the thing is, I wasn't. I was rubbish at sport. I was musician and actress. Acting was my thing. So, if I'd been the captain, I wouldn't have chosen me. I really wouldn't. And I wasn't one of the popular girls. I wasn't one of those that was in with the in crowd. I wasn't. And I look back at that now, and I really realise that those girls that were in with the in crowd they were bullies, most of them. And people used to invite them everywhere and include them in everything because they were terrified of not doing, They were really frightened of not doing it. It wasn't necessarily because they thought they were great, they wanted to be with them. It was because they were frightened of not inviting them and not being accepted by them. But obviously when I was younger, I didn't really understand that. So these couple of things that would happen at school just really rocked my world, and they really did make me become a chronic people pleaser right from a very early age. And it must have manifested in me, I used to steal things from home and give them to friends because I wanted them to like me. I remember a particular time at school when we'd gone to an old folks' home at Christmas time to play in the orchestra, and I stole a load of pencils, and I sort of knew it was wrong. So I can't say that I didn't know, but they'd given out all these pencils when they were doing bingo, and all these pencils were all over, little stubby pencils about this big, and they were brand new out of a box. And I remember going around and I picked up like a handful off the desk, maybe about 10 of these pencils, and put them in a violin case. And I knew that really it was wrong. They hadn't been given to people. They weren't left on the table for people to take. They'd been given for people to do the bingo or whatever it was. And then, of course, they were going to pull them all back again. But I took a load. And then on the coach on the way home. I remember going around giving to everybody, saying, did you get a pencil? I've got one, do you want one? You know, and it was all this buying of friends. And somebody grasped on me. Oh no, I don't think they did actually. I think the old folks home said they'd seen somebody taking them. And the director of music asked, you know, said, I know who it is, so can they come forward? And I was just shitting it. It was awful. And rather than having the effect of people liking me more, it had the opposite effect. And the director of music, who before that thought the sunshine out of my arse, hated me as well. So it was just like, oh, it's just this awful, you know, like terrified of being missing out of anything and wanting to be part of everything, wanting everybody to like me. And that, I brought that into adult life. And that is where, when I think is my biggest trigger for me was the eating. It was that when I felt I was missing out on something, or when I felt I wasn't included, or I wasn't invited, or people didn't want to be with me, and I'd just sit on my own, and then I'd go and eat instead. So, and the thing is that I think for people now it's even worse, because social media has made it so much worse. Everybody on social media, like you look on Facebook and everybody seems to be doing more exciting and better things than you. You know, you see pictures of friends going on holiday and their children, and people going out together in groups. I had that last week, a group of a particular club that I'm a member of. There was a group of people from that club all went out for dinner for somebody's birthday, and they were all on Facebook, and nobody had invited me. And you know, I don't get triggered by it so much these days because I've done so much work on myself. I know how to sort of right size it, which I'm going to talk to you a little bit about in a minute. So my thoughts were along the lines of, Amanda, perhaps I didn't realise that you were back because I've been away. You know, Amanda, perhaps it was one of those inopportune things where they just said, oh, let's go out on Friday night. It's such and such's birthday, and it was just whoever was there at the time. You know, there's lots of things that I can do now to right size that in my mind and not let it be catastrophized to like nobody likes me, nobody loves me, nobody wants me to be part of it, you know, I must have done something wrong, I need to change, all of that lot, which is what used to happen. So you know, this fear of missing out, it did change me so much, and it made in the fact that I just lost who I was. You know, I lost my values. So my values are not one of stealing. Those of you that know me and know me fairly well, and there are quite a few of you that'll be watching this that do know me very well, know that my values are integrity and honesty. They absolutely are, and that's what I stand by. But I was prepared to lose all my values because I was so scared of not being in with the in crowd and missing out. That feeling of abandonment, and that just got worse, of course, when my dad committed suicide when I was 12, and that was it. That was just like, oh, shit, you know, I've lost him. He left me because he didn't love me. Of course he did. I didn't realise that at 12 he was going through a bankruptcy. He'd been embezzling apparently from the company that he worked at, and he was going to get hold up for it. It was a big stuff, but I just thought it was all about me. You know, it's all about me, and he didn't love me enough. He didn't want to be with me. You know. So that just made it worse for me, and I just had this hole in the soul because I just thought nobody really, really loved me. Nobody could. I wasn't lovable enough. And I was constantly trying to fix myself then with outside stimulus like eating too much or drinking, or I was an adrenaline junkie, you know, I loved roller coasters. I never did drugs, so that was something that I would think I was too frightened to do drugs. So I think if I did, I knew that I'd be hooked. But, you know, I just try to fix myself with so many outside influences instead of trying to get to learn to love who I was, regardless of who else didn't, because you can't be loved by everybody. That's the whole point. You just can't. Because if we loved every single person that we came into contact with and really liked them and wanted to spend time with them, we wouldn't have enough hours in the day to actually be a true friend or a true family member to all of them. You just couldn't do it. You'd spread yourself that thin that you'd be of no use to anybody. You know, you wouldn't be nurturing in their life and they wouldn't be nurturing you in yours. And I never really got that. So I became a chameleon and just be whatever you wanted to be. You know, like that film Pretty Woman where, you know, he says to her, so what's your name? And she says, what do you want it to be? You know, that was me, you know, whatever you wanted me to be. But the problem is I'd forget how I was supposed to be with all these different people. And it was just chaos. And it was quite transparent as well. You know, have you ever been around somebody who's a chronic people pleaser and you think, you're talking bullshit. You don't really believe that at all. I know you don't. You know, I'd believe everything. You know, if somebody said, oh, they liked pick the colour blue, for example. Oh yeah, blue's my favourite colour as well, and it wasn't. But I just want it to be. So what ended up is that my integrity was so shit that nobody actually ever wanted to be around me anyhow. So it's this whole thing about self-sabotage is that we're fearful of doing one thing. So you're fearful of not being wanted or loved or whatever you. And my behaviour became so dishonest and so just not humble, or there was no integrity in it, that people could smell that a mile off, and they just didn't want to be around me because they'd no idea what was I bringing to the party. They didn't know who I was, they didn't know what I liked and everything. They couldn't ask me for an honest opinion about anything because they'd never get it. So it's just actually creating this reality that I was terrified of. So this fear of missing out was a huge thing in my life. You know, it really was from a very young age. I didn't know what it was called then. And the other thing about that is that when you're fearful of something like that, I know this sounds crazy, but what we do is we concentrate on, how can I put it? We actually concentrate on proving that right. So I would look at other people and go, they didn't invite me. I'd be looking for opportunities. So like, for example, if you go on Facebook and you think that you're being left out, have you ever done this where you'll go back over somebody's Facebook feed and you'll look for other opportunities? Oh, well, they met with them for coffee that day, and they met with them for coffee that day and they didn't invite me, and they went there and they didn't invite me. You know, I'd be looking for the evidence of being left out rather than creating a different world for myself or looking for evidence of being involved. And, you know, I'm always saying this, where concentration goes, energy flows. So if you look for evidence of being left out, you'll find it, and you'll find it again, and you will almost manifest that into your life, because you'll be acting, like I was saying, in a way that's so desperate and needy that will make people run away from you. So you will be creating exactly what you're concentrating on. So if you're concentrating on being left out, you will create a being left outness. I hope this makes some sense. I'd love somebody to write something to me so that I know whether I'm making any sense. So where concentration goes, energy flows. So if I can always find evidence of it, and then I start to create it for myself. So I don't know if you've heard this thing called JOMO being bandied around a bit recently. So it's sort of the opposite, you know, like FOMO and JOMO. So that is, you know, I actually went this way. It was like, okay then, well, so I stopped drinking 8-9 years ago. And I remember thinking, well, sod you, I don't need to drink, I don't need to go to the pub, I'm fine. I'll sit and watch television and eat chocolate and I'm fine. I don't care. But I did actually care. I was just trying to pretend and tell myself that it was fine to sit in every night. And that's what I did. It was like this, again, a big trait of ours, all or nothing thinking. So before I was out all the time, trying to make friends, wanting to be life and soul of the party, going everywhere. And then I stopped drinking because I just felt it was getting too much for me. And then I went the opposite. So I stayed in. I didn't go out. And I'd watch television, or I remember crocheting for a time. Now, I mean, it's great, like in early sobriety, or when you're really trying to change your behaviours around food. I'm always saying to people, do something different with your hands. You know, it's a really good thing. But it was great for a period of time to change those neural pathways and to turn off that habit of going out, drinking, having wine at night. You know, it kept me busy for a while, but it was never going to be sustainable because I didn't really enjoy it. It was just a substitute that was not going to be me. I don't know, but do you guys think I'm a crochet girl? Probably not. For those of you that are there listening, you know, I'm not. It's just not really my thing, to be honest. So I was trying to become, again, something that I wasn't. You know, oh yeah, I've enjoyed missing out. I don't mind. I don't care. I'm quite happy. You know, I don't care. I'd rather stay in. I'm fine with anybody else. I don't care if I'm not going to the pub. I don't care if I'm being... But actually I did. You know, I did. So that isn't joy of missing out. Just saying, well, I'm okay and I'm sit at home and I'm fine, you know, because... So what is... you know, and that can actually move on to what I call phogy, which is fear of joining in. So I'm not going to join in and I'm not going to go because I'm scared of getting hurt. So I'm pretending that I don't care and that I prefer to stay at home, but I'm still not living a life of joy. There's no joy in any of that. I'm not joyful of sitting on my my own in the TV, watching TV all the time. And sometimes I love it. Sometimes I love nothing more than sitting in watching Netflix. I'm tired and like cuddling up with the dogs and my hobby. I'm really happy to do that, but not every time. There's just like this joy of missing out is, I'm not in joy when I'm just doing that. I'm isolating. I'm actually isolating. So real joy of missing out is just being comfortable in your own space and genuinely not caring about whether you're invited to something or not, and being grateful and happy for what you've got and not looking at what others have and being envious or anything. But being happy just to be in the present moment, because I'm always saying this, we are human beings, not human doings, okay? And we tend to want to keep ourselves busy by doing something all the time. Now, when people are doing that for me, they are just not feeling their emotions. We're trying to get away from ourselves. Have you heard that phrase? I want to get out of my own head. I want to get away from myself. These are things that we use external influences to do because we don't want to sit with who we are. And that is where a lot of people's journey for food addiction and overeating and binge eating and everything came from. Can you just excuse me a minute? Somebody's trying to get into this live and they can't get in. I just need to text them a quick message. So that's not living your best life, is it? So basically that fear of missing out, or that joy, is being happy to just be, and being happy for other people's achievements. I always think that envy or jealousy is just the worst state of mind. And you don't get me wrong, I've felt it, I've been part of it, and it's awful. And I found this little poem I thought was really good about FOMO and joy, and it's as though the joy of missing out when the world begins to shout and rush towards that shiny thing, trying to have it, see it, do it. You simply know you can't go through it. The anxious clamouring and need this restless, hungry, tiring thing to feed. Instead, you feel the loveliness, the pleasure of your emptiness. You spawn the treasure on the shelf in favour of your peaceful self, without regret, without a doubt of the joy of missing out. And I thought that was really lovely. But there is that. It's about having pleasure in your emptiness, having pleasure just sitting with nothing, watching the birds or the sky, and while eating, having the pleasure of just eating quietly and gently without any distractions, really savouring the food and the pleasure in that food, instead of throwing it down our neck because we are trying to hold something back. We're pushing food down to hold back our emotions. We're getting on with the next thing so quickly that we're not enjoying that food. So that the connection to food and the way we feel in these things is really big. So how can we get to JOMO instead of FOMO? So I've got like 5 tips here. So the first one is that I think you have to accept that you feel fear of missing out. And it's, instead of trying to fight it, nobody likes feeling like they're being left out. And there's no shame in admitting that. So instead of rejecting it, accept it completely. And don't get too caught up in them. So try to understand that when you don't, what might really be, when you get involved in something isn't necessarily because of you. People do things for very different reasons, and try not to show you're upset and be happy for them. Or maybe you might just be in the wrong tribe, so you're trying to be accepted into a tribe that isn't right for you. I don't know, but just is trying to accept that feeling in the first instance. Okay, I'm feeling a bit of fear of missing out here. Doesn't feel quite comfortable. Sit with it instead of running away from it, is what I suppose I'm trying to say. And then when you can do that, you can just sort of get a bit curious, which is step 2 about it. So ask yourself some questions about it. So try and uncover what's underneath it. So do I care more about the activity that those people are doing? Or is it that I'm not part of the group? Because if they're doing an activity that you want to do, so say you've seen somebody on Facebook that, for example, is going to Mount Pichu, walking up Mount Pichu or whatever, and it's like, oh God, pissed off, sick of that. These people are going these places. Is it because you want to be with them, or is it because you want to do that activity? Because if it's the activity, then you can work on that. So how can I do that? If I really want to do that, how can I make that my reality? What things can I put in place? Okay, I've not got enough money to do that. So right, if I really want to do it, do I really want to do it? Okay, let's put a plan in place of how much I need to save. Let's get excited. Let's start looking at it. Let's start making it a reality. What am I prepared to do without to do that? And if I'm not, do I really want it, or is it just jealousy? And if I can't go up Mount Peach because I can't afford that, or that's out of my realms at the moment, what else can I do that will give me similar feelings that would? Rather than just sitting here thinking, I'm missing out. Oh, I'm so miserable because I'm missing out. Isn't it awful? Okay? So if it's the latter, so if it's about this friendship group, ask yourself some questions about the friendship group. Did they actually leave me out on purpose? If they did, and you suspect that they did, well, you've got a couple of things. You can ask them why. That could be painful. Or you can just say, well, look, is this, I'm always saying this, my tribe? So are these people that are going to nurture me? Is this nurturing behaviour? Is this loving and kind? Is it making me feel good about myself? Because if they can do that, do I really want to be part of that friendship group? Are they the part of the friendships that I would like to be around? And then the other one is there something deeper that's being triggered? So can you trace it back to a past wound like I can? So when I get that fear of missing out, I'm going back to that time when I was a child in the playground, being left out, and when my dad committed suicide, that feeling of abandonment and rejection, and it triggers those exact same emotions in me. You're not lovable, you're not loved, nobody wants you. So it's not actually about that instant, it's going back and triggering the feelings from that original instant, the first time it happened. And when I do coaching with people, we do this, we look back at the first time these feelings happened, and then we go back and we change those neural pathways so that our brain has got something else to direct those feelings to, a better experience, a more joyous experience, so it doesn't keep going back to that original, that fear that's being triggered. So try to tune into your emotions and see if there's something from your past that's presenting you now. So step 3 is it true? Is this fear true and real, or is it something that you are making into more? Have you ever done that? Oh, well, they went out, and I bet they went out last week, and I bet Sue's there as well, and I bet I'm the only person that's not been invited, and I bet they're talking about me, and I bet they're all sat there bitching about me. And anybody gone through this? This, what I call this absolute making a mountain out of a molehill. Absolutely, just it gets bigger and bigger. It's like the snowball going down the hill. We set it off, it gets faster, and it gets bigger, and it gets bigger, and it gets bigger. And before you know it, it's this big of stuff that's probably 99.9% of it crap. It's just not true. It's absolutely not true. So remember that people usually only ever put the best bits of their life on social media. When I've got a set of friends whose lives look amazing on Facebook. So they're always going on exotic holidays. They've got fabulous photos of the kids, and they're all together, and they're hugging, and they've got this lovely family life. But the reality of it, I know, is that they're always arguing. They're in shitloads of debt to get that life. And they're actually heading for a divorce. The kids have been in trouble with the police for drugs. But they don't show that to people on social media. Nobody would ever see that apart from their very nearest and dearest. Now, I can talk about this because I'm not giving names, and they never ever watch this. Don't get me wrong, I'm feeling very sorry for them. They're very dear friends, and it's not nice. But what I'm trying to say is, I'm trying to make my point, is that when we have this fear of missing out on social media, everybody else's life is more glamorous than mine, and everybody else is doing this, and everybody else is losing more weight than me, and everybody else is... People only put the best bits on. How rare do you see people put the bad bits on? Unless they're looking for self-pitying, and they're looking for a reaction from somebody in some way or another. Okay, so it's usually hard to believe when you are lacking in confidence, but people will also have FOMO about you. They will have things that they look at you and feel jealous about. And I remember a mentor of mine, because, you know, I do coaching and mentoring people, and I have one myself always, because I think it is absolutely, this is where I've learned most of my stuff from, is from other people mentoring and coaching me. And it's enabled me to be successful. It's enabled me to be serene and happy most of the time, and contented and peaceful and calm, and I'm eternally grateful for that. It's the best thing ever. But I remember a mentor of mine saying to me, and I was saying to her, well, they've left me out, they didn't invite me here, and she said, do you not understand that they're jealous? And I was like, what on earth have they got to be jealous about me? Because I didn't value who I was and what I had at that time at all, and I just couldn't see that anybody could be jealous of it, because I didn't value it myself. Have you ever felt this, where you don't value something that somebody else thinks is amazing? And she said to me, most of these people you're talking about are in trouble with their relationships, or they're having problems with their relationship, and you're in a happy marriage. You've got all these children that think the world of you. You've got 10 grandchildren. You've got your own business, and you're successful in your own right. You've lost all that weight, and you look amazing, and you're beautiful, and what's more, you're very kind and loving, and people like you. And I was like, shit, well, really? And she was like, yeah, really, really. And it took a long time for me to accept that, actually, to be fair, she was right. I am pretty kind and loving, and I have got all of those things, and it's okay. That's okay. But the one thing that I always say to people is, if somebody else is blinded by your brilliance, the one thing you must never ever do is to turn your light down. Never. And that's what I'd been doing all my life. I've been changing who I was. I've been turning my light down in these areas, or pretending to be light in those. And now I am who I am. Absolutely am who I am. I'm very conscious of not upsetting other people's feelings. I don't go round like a bull in a china shop. But I am who I am, and I let people accept me for who I am. And then I attract the tribe that I'm supposed to be in. Rather than being who I thought everybody else wanted me to be, and then ending up in very unsuitable tribes that weren't going to nurture me and make me feel good about myself. So it's hard to believe sometimes that you will have things that other people are envious about you for. And it's a really good thing to actually ask somebody who you really trust. You know, what do you see when you see me? What are my assets? What are the things that you value in me, about me and my life? And you may very well be surprised by the answer, because I was. And that then turns off that FOMO so much, because you start to be grateful and appreciate what you have got, rather than always wanting what somebody else has got. And the other thing as well is, you know, if people have got things that you haven't got, try just to turn it around, be genuinely happy for their good fortune, because it always feels better. Step 4, particularly with social media, I really think it's a really good thing to take a break from social media for a while. I can't do that because of my business. And it is tough, it's very difficult, because I'm quite visible, and I can get trolls, I get people saying bad things about me, and I have to be very resilient, and I do have supervision in what I do to help me to do that, because I am still, you know, I'm still quite sensitive person, and I can take it very, very personally. And I think when there's that screen thing, people say things that they would never dream of saying to your face. It's like there's a protection there of this screen, but nevertheless those things hurt just as much. You know, so be mindful about that. When you're saying things on social media, there's other people on the other side of it that will be hurt by that just as much as if you were saying it to the face. So one of the things that I always say is, if I wouldn't say it to them in front of me, I'm not going to say it on social media. If I wouldn't actually say what I'm going to write, I would not say it on social media. Because also, it's taken without context. It's taken without tone of mouth. You can't see people's reactions. You can't see whether they're smiling when they say it. You can't see whether they're frowning when they say it. So, yeah, but take a break. Take a break from social media if you're allowed to, and then notice the feelings. Because there's a big adage, what you don't know won't hurt you. So if you can't see what's going on, you can't get hurt from it. And life is carrying on around you. You're just not aware of it. And then taking a note of your feelings. What do you feel? Do you feel better? Do you feel more restful? Do you feel more serene and happy? And, you know, sorry, Melinda's just saying something. I can't read that, Melinda. She says, there's someone who really don't like because of things she says about me. In turn, it makes me not want to be nice to her. But when I get to think about it, the only reason she says bad things about me is when she says about me. Melinda, I know she won't mind me saying, is one of my bariatric success solution coaching clients, and we've worked quite a lot on this in there. And yeah, and that's it. It's like knowing that she says bad things because she's jealous, because she wants to pull you down necessarily. It's quite right. She's probably not even consciously aware that she's doing that either. It just makes her feel better. But the very best way you can get over that is by just being incredibly nice back. Because that'll just, you know, that's the best way of getting, if you want, like, get your revenge or whatever, you're just being you. Be incredibly nice back. Don't let her change who you are. Because you are a beautiful person. So don't let her in any way sabotage your brilliance, or change it, or make it less shiny. You know, you be the person you are, regardless of how anybody else is. And the last step is to let the joy in. What do I mean by that? So it does require listening. Ask yourself, what would make you truly happy in this moment? What do you need? What will light up your soul? Show some gratitude for what you've already got. I always think gratitude lists are brilliant, you know. Make a list of things in your life that you have got that you're grateful for, that other people would really want. You know, I've just been to Cambodia and Vietnam, and at the moment for 6 months my husband and I have been sat in this bedroom here. It's my office, it's my bedroom, it's where I live. I'm at home most of the day working. The dogs are here, he's here, we've got no kitchen. And I came back from Cambodia and I was like, holy shit, this is an absolute palace compared to what some people have got there. I was so grateful for what I have, because people out there have got nothing. But do you know something? They do not have FOMO. They are in JOMO every day. Why? Because they've got nothing, and nobody around them has nothing. So they've got nothing to be jealous of. They've got nothing to fear losing, because they've got nothing to lose. So they're just in the moment, and they're just full of joy and laughter and love, because that's all there is. That's all they've got. And how many of us would swap what we've got for that? We'd love to have it with everything else. And you know, you can, because the real thing is it's not about the material stuff. Now, I'm not saying to you should give up all your material possessions and go and live in a monastery. I'm not saying that at all. I think it's great. I think abundance is amazing. I think money's great. It's a thing that we barter with. We can get things for it, and we commit with it. And you know, without money, it would be a very different life. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is, when we have gratitude for what we have, when we live in the moment, when we give as much as we can to the rest of the world, then we feel better ourselves. We bring joy into our life, you know. So use this FOMO to change something you know needs changing. So if you're envious of people traveling, instead of sitting there saying, I'm really envious that they're going there, just go, right, okay, how can I create more travel in my life? What can I do to change things up? So if you're envious of people's houses, give your house a remakeover, or a style, or move house, or change your room, or do something that you're in control of. Take the power back from that fear of missing out. And remember that we've got a choice. Every day we have a choice. We can either live in joy and gratitude and action, or we can live in fear, resentment, envy and inaction, complaining about instead of looking at what we've really got in our life. And I absolutely know that when I choose to live in the ocean, I am so much more happy and much more contented, and it really does help me to get my mojo back. You know, that mojo, that sadness, that sexiness, that feeling of, yeah, I've got this. Life's great, isn't great, life wonderful. And it's all about perception. Most of the time it's about my attitude towards life. When I'm looking at other things and looking at other people and wanting it, what can I do to change my life? Okay, I want that. How can I get it? Is it really that important to me? Because you'll find out that, because you'll write a list of things that you need to do to get it and go, actually, Machu Picchu, I've got to get fit. Do I want to do that? I'm going to have to walk like 50 kilometres up. No, actually, it looks really good, but actually, no, I'm not prepared to do that. You know? So instead of sitting there, write a list and say, am I prepared to do these things that need to get there? And if you are, bloody do it. Bring that joy in. But you might very well find that you're halfway down that list, and a lot of the things you'd need to do to get there, actually, you don't want anyhow, and it'll take the fear of missing out away. Okay, well, hope that's been helpful for tonight. Lovely to see some of you here, and I will see you next week. Same time, same place. As if you want to be tagged to hit the button that if you go onto the button at the top, there's a button that says, you know, be notified of Amanda coming on live, because I'm going to start doing more lives during the day and things over the next few weeks. Just impromptu ones. It just might help people out with their day as well. So lovely to have you all here. Thank you very much. If you would like any help with bariatric support in any way, and I will be very delighted to help you. Take care. Night night. Bye bye.